Why you? Yes, you need a fund.
Quit f***ing around and build yourself a fund.
Start your fund today.
If you're wondering what's with these expletives on Daybreak today, have these two hosts forgotten that their mic is on? You know what? This is too much. I am leaving. Please hang on and let us explain.
You'll be hearing that word a lot in this episode because today we are talking about a very important and a very powerful idea for women. We are talking about the F off fund.
And to talk about it, we have a very special guest in our studio this week, Chaitra Chidanand, the co founder of SALT, a financial services platform for women.
And this episode is for every woman out there, irrespective of your age, your background, or your tax bracket. In fact, we even got a few of our listeners to send in their questions for this episode.
And if you're a man listening to this episode, do us a favor and share it with the women in your life. Also, hang in there because you might find a thing or two useful for you as well. All right. So this question is for all of us.
Yes.
Do you have a fund? And also, what triggered you to start it?
Motherhood.
Ah, okay.
Yes. I
Okay.
think about a year and a half after my son was born, when I decided to move back to India and be a startup founder, is when whatever little bit of savings I had left in the US, I invested it in actually, bad idea, but I put it all in Tesla.
Oh.
I mean, it turned out great for me because Tesla grew phenomenally
Yeah.
back in that time period. But it's not something I would advise anybody to do. Diversification is great. But yeah, that was the beginning of my FOF fund.
What about you, Rahil?
I don't have an FO fund, I'll be honest. I wish I had one, and there have been points in my pretty short career of 4 years where I wish I had one. I remember I had a pretty good job, I was happy and stuff, but there was a point towards the end of it where I was starting to feel a little burnt out. And I whimsically thought about maybe taking a break for like a couple months, 2 months, 3 months, kind of reassess, figure out what I want to do next. But I immediately realized that I don't have the kind of financial like runway to be able to do that, and wrote that idea off immediately. And I know I would like to have that option going forward. So do I have a fund? I don't, but I recognize that I do need one. What about you, Snigdha?
Same, actually, the same. I don't have one, and it's quite alarming at my age because I'm also older than you. I've been working for 10 years, and there have been points where I felt like, oh my God, it would be great to have had money in that situation. I could just walk out of it. Like, I would have been more confident about so many things. Like, for example, I bought a small piece of land. I took a loan. I'm still paying the EMI for it. And I wanted to start an artist residency back at home in Darjeeling. And it's been 2 years. It's just lying there because I don't have the money to start building. Should we talk about what is a
Yes,
fund?
I think
I
that
was gonna say
that is something we should get. So, for context for our listeners, there was this essay that a woman called Paulette Perhatch wrote back in 2016, and she wrote about why all women need a fund. Okay, and basically what she said was that all women should set aside a certain amount of money so they have the freedom to get out of a difficult situation. So that could be a tough job, it could be a tough relationship, any sort of difficult situation. You should have the money to be able to do that, and that could possibly look different for different people. This was a really deeply personal essay that
Yeah.
Snigdha shared with me a couple weeks ago, and it is so moving and so unsettling.
Yeah, so the essay starts out really well, right? Like, it's so exciting because she's got a good job. It's her first job. She's living in the city and, like, she's very excited. She's going out for fancy dinners, buying clothes, all of that. And then things get, reality kicks in. And her boss turns out to be a predator. And turns out her partner is abusive. And she has so many bills to pay. And she wants to walk out of that situation, but she can't because she does not have any savings. So the essay is basically about how every woman needs a fund.
And what's so scary about, the whole thing is that it's so possible for that to happen to you, right? It's such a real kind of,
It's very relatable.
Those are
Like
situations that anyone
most
could be in.
women would have
Yeah.
been in similar situations.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, the thing is, it doesn't have to be so dramatic.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I think the problem is we all think in terms of binaries.
Yeah.
That ultra abusive partner
Correct.
or, supreme predator boss.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it's somewhere in the middle. And you still, to be able to even deal with that situation with confidence, even if you don't walk out of it, to tell that guy to fix himself or back off or change his ways, having that money, saved off gives you the confidence to even deal with it. May not even be walking off. So I think if we don't think of it as a binary situation, then we might all see that all of us have been in those situations, right? It's not like one or two people who've been in extreme situations,
Correct.
but everybody has had times where we've been like,
Yeah.
gosh.
I wish I could
get
just
out
tell
of
this
Yes.
person off.
Yeah.
Yes.
And money in that sense gives you that power to be able to take those decisions for yourself and to have that autonomy, right?
Correct. Welcome to the Friday special episode of Daybreak. I'm Snigdha.
And I'm Rahil. And once a week, Snigdha and I come together to talk about things in business and tech that interest the both of us.
And it won't just be us. Depending on what we're talking about, we will also be bringing in a bunch of really interesting people onto the podcast. Today is Friday, the 12th of July.
By the way, once you're done listening to this episode, could you please do us a favor and fill out a survey we put together? We want to know what you think about FR funds. You'll find it in the show notes along with some more interesting reads on the subject. And now, on to the episode.
We all know that we should have a fund, but actually, building it is so difficult. It seems like, to me, as someone who does not have one, it seems so impossible, and so like I feel paralyzed at the thought of it, because they say, okay, at least 6 months worth. Some people say 6 months worth of savings. Some people say like salary. Some people say 1 year. Some people say 3 years. So, just thinking about that, I'm like, oh my God.
So we have the right person with us in the studio today to talk about funds, why you need them, how to set it up. We have Chaitra with us in the studio. Chaitra Chidanand, can you please introduce yourself for us?
So I am a fintech founder, and I guess the most relevant aspect of my background is that I became a fintech founder because I was terrified of finance.
Really?
Yes, and I wanted to solve it for others who were like me, right? I think money intimidates everyone.
Yeah.
Every aspect of money intimidates us, from credit to investing to earning to saving, etc. So really that was my motivation to become a fintech founder. My first company was Simple, which is a buy now, pay later pioneer in India.
Right.
My second company is Salt, which is a personal finance management platform aimed at women. I am from Bangalore. I grew up here.
So let's get one question out of the way because it is very confusing. Is a fund the same thing as an emergency fund? Like, emergency fund is usually for like a medical situation or some unexpected expense, right? Is it the same or is it separate?
I think names are very important because what you call it is how you think about it intuitively in your mind, and therefore a fund is very different from an emergency fund. In fact, I would add another fund, which we could do another podcast on some other day, called the Live It Up Fund.
Oh.
Right? So we can have 3 different funds that we allocate our monies into. So an emergency fund is something that you put away to meet your ultra essential expenses if there were to be an emergency. In that sense, there is a little bit of overlap with the fund, but you should think about it as completely different. A fund is something that allows you to, let's say you are in a situation where you don't want to be in. It could be in a bad marriage, a bad relationship, parents who you don't get along with, in-laws, or a job,
Mhm.
right? And you want to do something about it. So the difference is an emergency comes up on you unannounced. A fund, usually you have time to plan, like to
That's true.
avail it. So it has to be different in nature. In that sense, what you do with the money that you put into that fund
Yeah.
will be different. For an emergency fund, you would want it to be as liquid as possible. So you need both. In other words, you definitely need both. And you need to, if you're a young person starting, well, young or old, it doesn't matter. The youngest you're going to be is how old you're today. Right?
That's reassuring. Yeah,
100%.
that's
So it doesn't
Wow.
matter whether you're 60
Yeah.
or 20,
Yeah.
start today if you haven't.
Yeah.
So it's there's so much to unpack there. We actually had a bunch of people send in their questions, and these are people from like across the gamut of careers, of backgrounds, different stages of their career, different ages. Some have had success setting up funds, even though they may call it different things. Others are trying to figure it out, and they recognize that it's important for them to have. They're trying to figure out where to start. So one kind of recurring question that we got is whether there is a magic number, right, with an FOF fund.
I quit my really bad job last year and took a career break only after I had paid off my education loan and I had no financial liabilities. But my question is, for a woman in her late 20s living in metro cities like Delhi or Bangalore, how much money we need to have as part of our fund?
See, the way I think about it is not I think one of the biggest reasons why, when I heard the two of you saying that I still don't have an FR fund is because I've heard both of you talk about a magic number that you want to get to.
Yes.
And that number feels so large that you just never end up starting.
Yeah.
It's like recently I went on a trek to Sikkim. And it was a 9-day trek. And it was to the base of the Kanchenjunga. I went, I did it. It was ultra challenging, but I did it and it was very possible for me to do it. After I came back, I got to know that it's one of the 10 hardest treks in India. Had I known it before, there's no way I would have thought that I would be capable of doing it, because in my head, I have an imagination that to do the hardest treks, I need to have this level of fitness, and I will never live up to that level of fitness in my perception. But was I able to do it? Hell yeah. So I think the same thing applies when it comes to money or health, right? We think about the goal. So for a minute, we'll come to the goal. What is the magic number? There are some magic numbers. But I think the starting point should always be, what do I earn today? Or what do I get today? The beauty about women is whether we earn money or we don't, meaning whether you have a job or not, all of us control money. Meaning a housewife is given a budget to run the house. That's her salary. Right?
Yeah.
She might not be able to save 50% of it like an employed person would, but we all know from our mother's stories that they have put away 10, 20, sometimes even 30% of whatever budgets they were running homes with if they were homemakers, right? So I think start with the input, always. It's easy. It's easy to start with what I have today. So to give you my example, when I was leaving the US, I had literally $2,000 in my bank account. And I was like, okay, what do I do with this $2,000? It was either Bitcoin or it was Tesla. I was like, Bitcoin, I'm too scared. I should have done that. I've probably gotten a lot more. But Tesla worked out just. So my $2,000 became $25,000 when I sold it. And that was the money that allowed me to start Salt. Right? So don't think of it in terms of the goal. Think of it in terms of input. And speaking of input, if you're earning 100 rupees, you should not be spending more than 50 on your living expenses, right? Not more than 50%. And if that means that your rent is very high, move to a smaller place. Get a roommate. Move into your parents' place. Figure out a way to bring your living expenses under 50%. The second is 30% at least, at the very least, you got to put away as savings. And 20% is for your comforts. So comforts include the holiday you want to take.
Is that the Live It Up fund?
It could be Live It Up.
Okay.
It could be, for some of us, it could be Live It Up. But for some, it could be that's the way they live.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
it could be the fancy dinner you're going to with your friends. It could be anything, right?
Okay.
So that's only 20%, not more than that. Then once you have that basic framework and you abide by it, you don't have to worry for the rest of your life. Then coming to that 30%, what do you do with that 30%? If you're just starting out today, doesn't matter how old you are. If you're starting out today, break that 30% up for ease into a third, meaning 10%, put it into an emergency fund, assuming you're starting from scratch. What is an emergency fund? Something you should be able to access liquidity immediately. So FDs, RDs, savings bank account, even some liquid funds. But if you don't want to do liquid funds, which feels too complex for you, forget about it. FDs, RDs, savings bank account, let that money go into that. Second 10%, put it into your fund. A FAQA fund is most likely something that you're not going to need in 1 year, 6 months, 2 years, right? You will at least usually have a 2 to 3 year horizon before you want to tap into it. So invest that 10% in equities. Invest it in, large cap funds, because a 2 to 3 year horizon is great for a large cap fund. The remaining 10%, which should be for your long-term savings, your wealth creation, your alpha creation, take that money, you can put it into small caps, mid caps, large caps, like anything that is a little more longer term yield giving in nature. So think about your money from an input perspective and just get started. The thumb rule for an emergency fund is 6 months of expenses. So like I said, 50% of your salary your expenses should not be more than that. That 50% number times 6 months is a thumb rule for emergency fund. You can have a similar thumb rule for a fund, which is because if you want to say to a job, to a paycheck, right? If you want to to a house that you're living in with your partner, 6 months of expenses is a good
you through.
Right, is a good number.
Yeah.
So I think 6 months is where you can start. If you have dependents, like you have children or you have parents, that number can be, that multiple can be 50% times either 9 or 12.
Got it. But Chaitra, does, being financially prudent always mean living frugally? Like, how frugal should we go? And is there any scope for some kind of a balance there? Because it's also about here and now, right?
Absolutely. And in fact, that is something that's very, very important to live it up or to live. So that 20%, that's why I was saying that, if you make sure that your basic expenses are not more than 50% of what you earn, then you can create that corpus of that 20% money that you can use to live it up today. And out of that 30% that you're saving, you can live it up tomorrow, right? What will you do with your emergency and funds? Once you reach that multiple, let's say it's 1 lakh rupees, or let's say it's 5 lakh rupees for somebody, right? Once you reach that, all of your money should go into the Live It Up fund. So the last 10% that I was talking about should be your Live It Up fund. It can be you will live it up during retirement, or you will live it up when you're 30, 40, it doesn't matter. So you should put away that corpus for that purpose.
Chaitra, we had a question related to, living frugally. I'll just play it here.
Okay, so my question is, do I need a side hustle for my emergency fund? If my current income isn't cutting it and I don't want to sacrifice my lifestyle to save more, what do you think I should do?
Okay. This is a loaded question.
Yes.
I don't want to sacrifice my lifestyle. It makes me feel very sad when I see a lot of young people who say this. Because in that definition of I don't want to sacrifice my lifestyle is a lot of unnecessary choices, exactly the kinds that I was just now talking about, right? Which I only do because of peer pressure, because I want to look a certain way, which is all things that I have imagined in my head. Are side hustles great? Of course they are great. Do it for fun, do it because you're good at it, do it because it'll give you an extra income, and definitely don't splurge that on the type of nonsensical things that otherwise you think that you need to spend on, right? So put it away. That's great. I'm always in favor of side hustles. But I think when you say that, I don't want to give up on my lifestyle, please double click on that. Ask yourself, what are elements in this that I truly do for myself? Continue to do those, do more of those. Ask yourself, what are elements in it that I do because I want to appear a certain way in somebody else's eyes? Stop doing those. It'll go a long way in improving your mental health. An improved mental health will make you feel good about yourself. It'll help you start making wise choices. Spend on yourself.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. For me, I keep saying I write it off as me being an emotional eater. So whenever I'm stressed out, I'll invariably order some nonsense on like Swiggy and Zomato or whatever, and then feel terrible afterwards. Not just because it's trash and I'm borderline lactose intolerant and I've just eaten like a full Magnolia's that banana pudding to myself, but also because I can't afford to do this so often in the week, right? But yeah, when you were starting out in your career, when you were like, starting, were there these like financial missteps that you made as well?
Oh, hell
Like,
yeah. So I think one of the biggest financial misstep I took was doing nothing because I wanted to do the perfect thing.
Yeah, exactly.
all of
what
us, yeah,
we can
all of us
identify with
started
it.
there.
And for many years, I've like more than a decade of my working life has gone in that mistake. It's because, and the irony was, I was giving financial advice to all others. I was happy in dishing out advice that, hey, put your money in Facebook. Obviously, it's going to do well. Put your money in Netflix. I'm a big customer of Netflix. Like common sense based financial advice I was dishing out. And a lot of people around me made a lot of money thanks to these taking me up on these. But I was never confident enough to do it myself. Right? So that's the biggest mistake I see people make.
So your advice is, don't think of your fuck off fund or just in general your financial health as like Iron Man. Start off with couch to 5K and you'll get there at some point.
Yeah,
Like,
just get started.
Yeah.
Second mistake I see people do is they think that they need to have financial knowledge and therefore they don't do anything.
Yeah.
The best, you can never learn swimming by watching YouTube videos about it, by reading blogs about it. Investing in financial prudence is exactly like swimming. You have to get into the water to learn. You have to feel like you're drowning a few times before you'll start learning how to kick and move the right way.
It feels like you're really talking to me right now.
So start.
Yeah.
It's like Nike's
Just do it.
line. Just do it.
Another question that we got was how to set up, and you spoke about this briefly a little while ago, where, without really calling it your FO fund, women have been doing this for so long, right? Whether that's storing away, keeping jewelry in a safe place, or, setting aside money and then using it when that rainy day kind of came along. But if you could tell me today, if someone's taking a break from their career, or if someone's a homemaker, or if, someone isn't employed actively, what are the ways in which you can set up an FO fund of your own?
See, the theory is the same, right? I mean, even the actions are the same. It is whether you're earning money or somebody else is earning money and giving it to you, it doesn't matter. As long as you have access to some money, apply that 50-20-30 rule. If you're lucky, like let's say it's somebody else is giving you money, then most likely you don't have your own living expenses, which means that 100% of whatever you're getting is available for you to invest. I think one of the biggest mistakes people have made, right? In our parents' generation, the equity markets were not mature, so they could not make the money grow. I think today, if the biggest mistake I see people making is only saving and not investing. Because 100 rupees today is not going to be worth 100 rupees 3 years later, or definitely not 10 years later and 20 years later. So if you think that I'm saving money and feeling good about yourself for just saving, then it's pointless. Might as well spend it and enjoy your life today, because it's not going to be worth it, right? Or it won't give you that the returns that you need to be able to actually say F off and move out. So it's very important to invest. Whatever it is. I tell people that the mutual fund, you can start off an SIP with 100 rupees per month, right? So there is no, when I get 5,000 rupees, I will start investing, or when I get 50,000. No, start with 100 rupees. It's more important to build that muscle. So if you're under 18, start with your pocket money. Train yourself to have that 50-30-20 rule. If you don't need that 20 for comfort, put that money, increase that 30% to 50%. If you don't need to spend on living expenses because you live with your parents, they take care of it, put away 100%. And it's very important for young people to invest in equity markets, right? There's a very big misconception of risk, right? Risk is, there's no such thing as I'm a high risk person, I'm a low risk person. Nobody wants to take unnecessary risk, right? Everybody should take necessary risk. When it comes to investing, it's all about thinking about the time horizon. If I need this money within, like there is a certain amount of money that I might need immediately. That is what we call as emergency fund. That is the money that should be in either your savings bank account, FD, RD, etc. Then there's the second group of money, which is what we are calling the FOF fund, which you might need in a few months, right? You have a few months horizon to draw down on that fund or to liquidate or withdraw from that fund. That is money that can go into index funds, which are usually they are not super volatile. Reasonably okay, because then the time horizon there is 2 to 3 years. So think in terms of time horizon. If it's 2 to 3 years, large cap, index funds, ETFs, great. If you have 10, 25, 10, 20, 30 years, that is your live it up fund, or what we are calling a live it up fund. Some people call it retirement fund, right? Some people call it fund for my child's education. You can give it whatever name you want, but that is the type of stuff that you should invest in high growth mutual funds, which can, because it's the time horizon allows you to take a higher risk.
We got this question from a young Indian student who's living in Europe. She lives with her boyfriend and she's just starting out with a career in art.
So I'm a young professional and I live in a different country to my family and I live with my partner. And so I think it's quite wise for me to set up some sort of a fund for myself. But like I said, because I've only really been earning money for less than 2 years now, I worry if this is the right thing for me to do, if I should perhaps invest my money and try to make more money off of it. But at the same time, I'm quite anxious about doing so because I'm afraid to lock up my money in some sort of an investment where it would be inaccessible to me.
Look, you can't create money. If you can't, you have to find ways to save it, right? And I think the problem is that we always think about it in terms of, array, I only have 25,000 rupees. Array, I have to live in this place where I have to pay 15,000 rupees rent. I'm only left with 10,000. If I order 3 times on Swiggy, that consumes half of my salary. So honestly speaking, first step is, even if it's 5% of whatever you're earning, if it's 10% of whatever you're earning, put that away as into an investment. Make your SIP for that. Put it away in a mutual fund. If you don't want to start with an emergency fund, it's okay. Start with a mutual fund at least, right? I'm not saying that there's only one way to do it. Find your own way. Even for the European person who is, think about money saved as, like, for instance, let's say she buys a dress, then she goes and returns it because she doesn't like it. She gets that money back. Put that into an ETF or an index fund. So start finding ways in which, I like this Magnolia example that you were talking about earlier. One of my friends said that she actually did this during COVID because she was sitting at home and she was, stress ordering. So she just decided that, every time I feel like ordering on Swiggy, I will go add all the items to the cart or on Amazon or Nykaa. But I won't click checkout.
I do this.
Instead, because that gives me the joy of having, it fools my brain into thinking that I have shopped for these things. But I don't click on checkout. Instead, I go and take that same amount of money and I put it in these stocks.
Oh, wow.
And she earned a 10x return on that because, of course, during COVID, the stock markets did really well. Right? So find these hacks for yourself. It could be $10 or 10 euros that this girl lent to her friend who returns that 10 euros. Start with that.
Yeah.
Right. So I have a question actually related to that, and this is a very personal question because not all of us grow up developing financial skills, right? What are some of the things you can make up for starting late?
invest more in equity and find the kinds of funds that are good quality funds. Don't invest only looking at the returns. Talk to a few friends, see where they're putting money. But don't go for single stocks. Don't go for that, oh, my friend is good at stock tips and I will do Bitcoin or I'll do stock tips. No, do the prudent ones, which are these kinds of tried and tested, great track record, decent growth mutual funds.
So, what happens if you end up using the fund, Chaitra? What next? Do you have the same approach, or to building it again?
Yes.
Or something changes?
No, it's the same approach. Think about it. I'll draw an analogy because I like analogies personally. That's how I consume the world. Think about it as fitness, right? What do you do for fitness? You generally eat healthy food, meaning you eat home cooked food. That's one simple step you can take. You can reduce the intake, or you can make your dinner a little lighter. You can do 100 steps after every meal. You can do 5,000 steps in a day. You can do 10,000 steps in a day. Let's say you've been doing these things. These are the equivalent of your emergency fund and fund in terms of health, right? Some shadi is coming up, Diwali is coming up. You indulge yourselves. What do you do after that? You just go back to
right
this.
back to it.
Yeah.
You don't do anything. You don't have to go on a starvation diet or
Right.
anything. Just come back after the Diwali, after the holiday, that whether it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month, doesn't matter. Come back and restart the same routine.
Okay.
When you think that, oh, after this I'll have to do something extra, that is too much of a burden on your mind.
Correct.
Don't take that
Yeah.
burden. Just come back to the same
Yeah.
routine.
Yeah.
Okay, so Chaitra, I have a question about how easy it should be to access this money, right? Would you recommend investing all of it, or do you think that a certain amount of it should be like cash savings, easy to use?
See, the thing is, I feel this again, everybody is different. My personal view is that a fund should grow. If it doesn't grow, then it's not going to give, because my needs are going to change with time. And inflation is going to eat into all my savings. So emergency money, which is small portion of money, which is 6 months of my expenses, should be in depleting. Like basically anything that's in cash or cash equivalents, you're losing money on it compared to inflation. It's devaluing over time. So for a fund, you should not put it in anything that's devaluing. Put it in something that grows. And that's why I said think of it as a 2 to 3 year horizon.
Okay.
And start putting it in large cap type funds.
Right. So when we thought of this topic, we put out posts on social media asking people to send in questions. And a lot of men were very intrigued by what a fund is, right? Most of them, they said that they also need one, which is fair, of course. But some of them were like, wait, does my partner have a secret fund that I don't know about? And another person also asked if they should actually help their partners build a fund. So my question is, should men help or should they just stay away from it?
Of course they should help. Why shouldn't they help? If they're willing to help, let them help. But they should stay away from asking and probing. Tell me where it is. Can you give me your credentials? How much have you saved up? Let them leave that aside. But see, I think it's interesting that, with the very end, we talk about men, because one of the most important needs in financial wellness in a woman's life is being able to have a money conversation with the man in her life. The man in her life could be father, brother, husband, boyfriend, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right? The authority figure. Usually it's a man.
True.
Sometimes it's a mother, right? So having that money conversation, I think, is the first barrier that women need to break, even before anything else, right? I mean, actually, I shouldn't say even before. Start doing whatever you can do, dabbling, doing whatever, but have this money conversation. Don't postpone it. There's no perfect money conversation. Don't be afraid of it. It's something, especially younger, if you're not married, do not get married without having a money conversation. If you're in a serious relationship, don't get more serious without having a money conversation. I'm not saying it's something you should talk on your first date, but definitely, as the relationship progresses, get to know each other's ideas about money, because it's very important to know.
Daybreak is produced from the newsroom of The Ken, India's first subscriber-focused business news platform. What you're listening to is just a small sample of our subscriber-only offerings.
A full subscription unlocks daily long-form feature stories, newsletters, and podcast extras. Head to theken.com and click on the red subscribe button on the top of the Ken website.
Today's episode was hosted and produced by Rahel Philippos and I, Snigdha Sharma, and it was edited by Rajiv Sien.